Hello and welcome to this month's Back Chat. The poet said that April is the cruelest month, so here we are to cheer you up with 2.5 legends on the panel today as well. We've got Gary Schofield, 46 Test caps, Lee Crooks, 19 Test caps, and Martin Sadler from League Express, not as many as the other two, but he's still got an opinion to give, so we still welcome his company on the panel today. OK, well, loads to talk about this month, not the least of it the Challenge Cup round that we've just had and the Challenge Cup draw that we've just had as well. So exciting times as far as the Cup's concerned. The road to Wembley starts here. Gary Schofield, what about Swinton? What about Swinton?
That's what the Challenge Cup's all about, isn't it? Absolute sensational. And to be honest with you as well, Dave, I watch a little bit of the Championship, and what you see in the Championship is if you don't bring your A game every week in and week out, then there's going to be surprise results. So Swinton went to Huddersfield with plenty of confidence. I don't think Huddersfield gave them the respect what they deserved, to be honest with you, some of the players who they left out, and Swinton went, well, I'll tell you what.
was missing, wasn't he?
And a few more others. So whether they give them the respect or not, and the kid from Newcastle, Mamo, whatever the...
Jake Mamo.
Jake Mamo there. So whether they give Swinton the respect they deserved, it doesn't look that way, but let's take nothing away from Swinton's performance. That's what the Challenge Cup's all about. They're ambitious, got a great draw themselves as well now, Wigan at home. So Swinton, well done for them, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
great result.
Lee Crooks, biggest cup upset since last year when Oldham beat Hull KR, and we know what happened to Hull KR. It rather points gloomily towards Huddersfield, doesn't it?
It certainly does, yeah, and I think that they've been going through a traumatic period. I think, well, certainly for the last 6 weeks, and I don't really know what's going off there, to be honest. I think that probably Rick Stone's treading on thin ground at the moment. I think, you know, I noticed in the paper that he sort of fired a blast across the players' bows a little bit, pointing the finger at them. And I think that yes, some of the players have got to take some responsibility, but I think that it's about the organisation and what's going off away from the field. I think that people need to look a little bit at. I think because. You know, certainly somewhat's not happening there at the moment, and they've got a lot of good players in that squad. And the results just aren't turning up. So that tells me that underlying all that, there's some animosity somewhere, I think.
Yeah, Rick Stone, Martin, after the Catalan game, I think the players asked the coaching staff to leave so they could have a meeting. Well, we've heard that before.
Sure.
Hull last year at Widnes,
Indeed.
and it led to a triumphant march to Wembley for Hull FC. No march to Wembley for Huddersfield this time.
No, but I wonder about Huddersfield, whether they're really all that upset to be not in the Challenge Cup anymore, because it's very obvious to me that they're going to face a battle to avoid being in the bottom four, and I don't think they'll win that battle. But of course, if they are in the bottom four, the battle then is to avoid being relegated. And you've got to focus 100% on that battle, I would have thought. So I suspect that, you know, deep in their hearts, a few people at Huddersfield might not be desperately upset at the fact that they don't now have the Challenge Cup to focus on. But to have lost at
Swinton, I mean, that's I mean, you know, respect to Swinton.
There's no doubt about it that it was an appalling result, and great for Swinton, though. You know, the great thing about the Challenge Cup these days is that it does give smaller clubs like Swinton a chance to make a mark, and I think that's a great thing, as Gary just said. And you know, Hull KR did that at Lee as well. You know, and it's a great achievement for them. You know, Lee are starting to struggle now in Super League. You know, you've got 3 clubs now at the bottom of the Super League table: Lee, Huddersfield, and Widnes, and they've got to start looking hard at, you know, how they can get out of that situation.
I think also as well at Huddersfield, I think a couple of big points here has been the recruitment. Rick Stone has literally said openly, you know, he didn't sign these players. And if he had the opportunity, he wouldn't have brought these players to the club because he doesn't rate them, i.e., as we know with the situation, what's happened with Riley. So who's to blame for the recruitment with the quality of players what Huddersfield got? They brought 5 from Bradford, and let's not forget here, they wasn't very good at Bradford last year as well. So who's brought the recruitment? Allegedly, it's Fulis. So then Rick Stone, for mine as well, since Rick Stone has taken over, all he's done, literally, I would say he's moaned a little bit because they're not the players what he wants. And for mine as a coach with Rick Stone, I don't see that he knows what his players can do as individuals. He doesn't know his philosophy as a team from there, and he doesn't really know what sort of game plan that he wants to play. So there's a lot of big problems with that Huddersfield dressing room from a player's point of view, where they don't know where they stand.
Yeah. Well, and he certainly didn't like Ryan Braley, did he?
No, he didn't. No.
He made that absolutely clear, and Ryan Braley's now gone to Toronto. And the upshot of all that is that Huddersfield are playing Leeds on Friday night, with only one half-back. You know, what's going on there? You know,
Well, also,
it's crazy.
But we mentioned again with the dressing room, and Lee mentioned, which is a pretty important factor. We all keep harping on about the Danny Brough scenario, don't we? That can't be helping, because it always seems to be harping back to Danny Brough. Is the issues there with his dressing room? Last year, it was a situation with Brough losing the captaincy, Paul Anderson getting the sacked. So the big issue is here. It's rumoured now Brough is going to be leaving. You know, it's that dressing room scenario where it's not a happy dressing room. And I know myself from my next play, and so does Crooks as well. If you've not got a happy dressing room, it's hard work.
Lee, do you expect him to last the season, Rick Stowe?
No, to be fair, I honestly don't. I think if things are going from bad to worse, which they seem to be doing at the moment, you know, I just can't see that happening. And just going back to Martin's point about not wanting to be in the Challenge Cup, I think that, you know, these 3 games, Super League clubs, they've had to play 4, but there's generally 3 games, and they're all blank weekends now. So it's not as though they're having to double up. I think he's probably done the Challenge Cup a little bit of a disservice because of the team he's picked. I think that, you know,
But
the Challenge Cup
surely the team he picked
should have been good. It should have been. So,
yeah.
but then it got. So then you revert back to, you know, he's took a chance by putting players in that are probably the bottom end of his squad. Whether he's had to do that because of injuries or he's just left people out because you know. But to me, it looks like he's probably done the cup a little bit of a disservice. But it's the Challenge Cup is there to if you gain a result in the Challenge Cup, it breeds confidence.
It does, yeah.
And as you go forward. You keep, as I say, it's a blank weekend, so it's not as though it's putting extra stress on you. But you gain more confidence, and that then gravitates back to the to league program. So you know, I just think that you know, he's probably made a bit of a mistake there. As I said to you before, there's got to be something that's underlying. Players don't go out there and deliberately not play, and they don't go out there and not try. But there's certain factors that I think you can look at that would suggest that there's not a happy dressing room there at the moment, and all the stuff that's coming out of that through the media suggests that that's the case.
Well, of course, Swinton play Wigan in the next round, and I very much doubt whether Sean Wayne will make the same mistake. You know, it's a great achievement by Swinton, but
Well, also as well, the great philosophy for the Challenge Cup is quite simple. Just going back to mine and Lee's, Dave. When we drew the lesser sides, no disrespect to the lesser side, but the philosophy was quite simple. For the first 40 minutes, we'll give it to him, we'll take the game away, just like Lee's did against Doncaster on Friday.
Yeah.
We'll take the game away, then we'll take the burners off in the second half.
Yeah.
But it's quite simple. Huddersfield do that. They didn't give Swinton the respect what they deserved. They didn't give the Challenge Cup the respect what they deserved, and they've got exactly what they have deserved. They've got the defeat. All credit to Swinton for playing for the full 8, but you can see what it meant to them. But Huddersfield have got exactly what they deserve because they didn't give the Challenge Cup and Swinton any sort of respect.
A different level, not quite the same Richter scale of a shot, but you mentioned it, Hull KR's win at Leeds. You get a sense that Hull KR really focused on that. I think they'd rested a few players for the Toulouse match.
Putting down a marker.
We deserve to be back here. You took our place in Super League.
Looking ahead to the playoffs at the end of the season, you know, and the qualifiers, and that game could certainly be replicated. Well, it will be, probably, because, you know, you imagine Lee probably will finish in the bottom 4. And that's going to be a massive game for Hull KR again.
And if that was massive, what about the next one in the cup for them? Salford. You know, the reprise of the £1 million game, but it's twisted around this time. It's at Salford. I mean, how much are Hull KR going to be up for that?
Yeah.
Well, you would imagine a hell of a lot, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you know, I think Hull KR have been fantastic since I lost that game, haven't they? They've retained their support. They've done so many things that have been really positive. It's really stimulated them to look hard at themselves and to really generate and retain the support they had. But I think it's going to be a tremendous game. It's one I'd love to be at, and you know, it's a shame that the crowds are so poor for the Challenge Cup, isn't it? I mean, Salford got 1,200 or so against Toronto, Huddersfield 1,200 against Swinton. Some of these games deserve much better crowds than this.
They certainly do, and I think a lot of it's about financial, though, isn't it? I think people budget.
There's got to be a way to.
People budget. They have season tickets. Oh, we can afford to go to this. We can't afford to go to that. I mean, going back to the Lee and Hull KR game. I mean, full credit to Hull KR because I thought that they were the better team, but it was an awful game to watch.
So I enjoyed it. I was there as well. Mind you, you had a foot in one camp, though.
Well, I had a foot in one camp, but to be fair, I thought Lee were dreadful. I think that, and to be fair, they've not been playing well for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
No.
So, and they need to get some stuff sorted out. But I didn't think that the game was as a high quality as people are making out to it was. Full credit to OKR. They took their opportunities and they scored the tries that won them the game. I think, if you look at Lee spent at least 15 to close to 20 minutes on Hull KR's line and couldn't get across it. Now, that wasn't because it was great defence, it was because there was poor decision making, poor options, too slow. And I think that, I can't see Salford fall into that same trap. I think, to be fair, I think it'll be an entertaining game, but I think Salford will win
I tell you
by
what, it's
quite
very
a few
interesting
points.
from Lee Crooks, isn't it? Because let's not forget here, Lee Crooks is black and white. He's not going to give the Red and Whites any credit whatsoever on that performance from there. He's not going to. We all mucking here, Crooks. He's black and white. He's not going to give Hull KR any credit whatsoever. So come on, Lee. Come on, give him a bit of credit.
No, I have given some credit because I think that they've done really well to get there and win the game. And they rested the players. I think Martin's right in regards to what they've done since they got relegated. I think that they're averaging between 7,500, round about. So it's very good. The supporters have backed them. What they're doing off the field is really good as well. They're trying to. There's a massive push to try and increase participation within the game, and they're sort of joined forces with Hull FC's foundation to try and manipulate that. So I think that what they're doing as a club is great. All I can say is what I saw in regards to a rugby league match, and it want a pretty sight to watch.
But I don't think it'd be a one-sided game though at Salford. Salford only just beat Toronto. Didn't they?
I think Toronto would beat OKR.
Yeah, well, maybe.
So you look at how much money they've spent.
Toronto would beat Ilkeston
I
Rovers?
think Toronto would beat Ilkeston Rovers.
Well, I tell you what. I'm not really welcome on the black and white side of the city. That's a big call, that, Lee Crooks. You won't be invited back to the red and white part of it, son. That's a big call.
Well, let's just move on. We've got other ties to talk about, not the least of them Castleford against Saints. I mean, wow, when that came out, the ball, the hat, whatever it is, wow. That sets the juices rolling straight away.
Well, do you know what, Dave? Yeah. Castleford St Helens, the wow factor. Yes. Without a doubt, as two clubs.
Yeah.
The way Castleford are playing, sensational. But the way St Helens are playing, really? Because at this moment in time, they are very ordinary.
Well, they beat Cass. They beat Cass.
Well, and fully deserved that, and fully deserved that. But, overall, the way that they are playing and the style of play from there, as I've said it before, and I'm going to repeat myself here about them St Helens players. Okay, forget about the coaching situation. Now, them St Helens players, when you see them talking, it's quite simple here. They're saying about the history of the club, the expectations. We should be in semi-finals. We should be in finals. Listen, fellas, you've got to stop talking the talk and start walking the walk, because everybody's getting fed up a bit. Not only we know the players have got Kieran Cunningham the sacks, Kieran will take some responsibility because of the style of play. It wasn't the St Helens way, as we all know. So Kieran at times has got to take responsibility for that. But then players have to take responsibility for their performances, and quite simply at this moment in time, it's not good enough, David. It's boring to watch.
Oh, have you not watched Regan Grace recently?
Oh, Regan, he's a winger in the open space, but very talented.
Winger with 3 men on him.
But how many opportunities will he get at times?
Yeah.
But Jamal Olesa gave them a real spray, didn't he, after the game against Widnes? He absolutely came out and really, I don't know what he said to the players in the dressing room after the game, but on TV he was absolutely scathing about them, and so. They've got a lot to do, St Helens. Still, they're still pretty low down in the table. I think they're eighth or ninth out of 12. They're by no means secure in Super League. They could drop into the middle 8 quite easily.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a real test for them the rest of the season.
Saints in the middle 8, that would
absolutely.
be.
Well, we'll tell you what as well, David. I'm just going to say to that: the bottom 3, Widnes, Huddersfield and Lee are going to be in that bottom 3.
Yeah.
So now then, we're looking at Warrington. They seem to be hitting a bit of form now. So who's going to be dragged in to that 4th spot? And when you look at it, don't rule out St Helens being dragged into there. There's Catalans, Wakefield. We're anticipating Warrington, who'll climb up there. So St Helens quite easy can get dragged in to that bottom 4, the way they are playing.
Yeah, Castleford, Lee, Cass, 2 defeats they've had, back-to-back defeats. Is that just a little bit of a blip? You know, you're expecting a full return to the form they showed before.
It's awkward. I think one of the things I looked at Cass and I think that, you know, I take my hat off to Darryl. He spent the last 3 years building a squad of players. You know, he's been at the club 5 years. He spent the last 3 years building a squad of players. They played some sensational rugby league at the beginning of the season, and I think that you know, one of the things I would say is that being at the top of the league and playing like they've played brings added pressure on, and people, there's an expectation that you're going to have to do it every week.
Yeah.
Now, that pressure that comes onto that and that expectation has a massive impact on players, and if you're not used to, they've got a lot of players that aren't used to being where they are at the moment. And I think that's one of the scenarios I think that are hindering them. The other one is, you know, if you give Cass time and space around the middle of the ruck so that the halfbacks can get the ball away, then I think they're going to rip you to pieces. I think if you close the space down and you slow the ruck speed down and you get stuck into the middle, then that takes away that time and space. Then that becomes a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
And they've got to come to a plan B, and I probably don't think they've got that plan B sorted out yet.
Right.
But it was particularly difficult for them at Hull, wasn't it? Because Luke Gale went off with concussion.
So one man makes a team then. So they had 12 men.
No,
Luke
you
Gale
can never say that, but one man often has a massive influence on a team.
Well, one man might do,
Luke
but
does.
what I'm saying is, so if they're reliant on Luke Gale and he gets a massive injury, then you're going to tell me that they're going to
Well,
go
they only
way down.
ended up losing by 4 points, I think.
Well, I
Two
mean,
points.
that-
2
They
points.
got
Goal
beat by
difference.
12 points, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
but they played a team that had 12 men for 2/3 of the
Yeah,
game.
they did.
So
Yeah.
and what
Yeah.
they tried when I watched the game, you know, I think one of the things that they tried to do was they tried to run round Hull.
Yeah.
And all Hull did was kept a straight line and just kept moving up the worked exceptionally hard for each other, and they pushed it. And to be fair, you know, Castleford should have won that game. They come up with the wrong tactics at the time,
But I
and
think-
that's an issue that they're going to have a look
But
at.
they play Wigan on Saturday night, and that's going to be a key fixture,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because
Yeah, without a doubt.
if it is a blip, you know, they'll beat Wigan, but if it's a trend, Wigan will...
Key fixture,
charged.
not just for Wigan and Cass, but a key fixture for England as well, because
Absolutely.
five of the players are going to be on a plane the morning after.
Yeah.
They hope injury-free.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of the first part of Back Chat, but just going to say 2 words: Chris McQueen. Looking forward to their reaction after the break.
If you think rugby league's just a game for youngsters, think again. Masters Rugby League is a new form of the game, specially created for the over 35s. From full contact to non-contact, there's a pair of shorts for everyone. Get fit, make friends, have fun. To find your nearest Masters Rugby League club, just search Masters Rugby League online or drop us an email.
So welcome back to part 2 of this month's Back Chat. We're going to get onto that England selection in just a very short time. You can hear them pawing at the ground to get their opinions in. But just to conclude on the Challenge Cup, some other great ties there. Warrington against Wigan, Hull against Catalan. Hull against Catalan. Lee, I mean, they got the monkey off the back last year, Hull. Do you feel that relieves the pressure that they could have a really good cup run again this year?
I think it's going to take some pressure off, yeah. I think that certainly, again, you know, there's an expectation at Hull about this season and going one step further and hopefully trying to get to a second Challenge Cup final and obviously the Grand Final. So I think the players have learnt a hell of a lot about themselves from last year's experiences, and that'll stand them in good stead. You know, ultimately all you can ask for is a home draw in the Cup, and that's what Hull have got. I think that I thought Catalan had sort of got away from that, playing well at home, not playing so well away from home, but still seems to be a little bit like that at the moment.
Hull early in the year,
they beat Hull. They did beat Hull, and that's why I thought they'd got away from that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then you know, you look at some of the other performances that they've had when they've come away, and they've not been consistent. And I think that, and to be fair, they got beat at home as well.
Yeah.
So they've not been consistent. So I think that's a game that you would suggest that all being well, Hull should go out and win. But as I said, you're never too sure at this particular time, because there's a lot of teams that are, the Wakefield Warrington game from last week. I think, barring a mistake from your mate, Mr. Fafita, on the try line, that Wakefield would have won the game. So the competitions sort of up and down at the moment, and I'm not too sure whether that's because the players are getting better or the players are getting worse. And I think that at the moment, the competition's probably not as good as it has been in the past, and I think that's why we're seeing some results that are quite close, and teams that are up and down a lot.
Okay, well, let's just remind ourselves of the way the draw looks. This is the draw for the 6th round of the Ladbrokes Challenge Cup. Take your pick of those. As we said, some juicy ties there. Castleford against St Helens, Hull against Catland, Warrington against Widnes. Those are the 3 all Super League ties. Terrific stuff for Barrow. Good luck to them. I mean, they're going under the headlines a little, aren't they, Barrow in League One, because of the impact of Toronto, but they deserve a lot of plaudits for the start they've made this League One season, up there at the top, and they get a trip to Leeds. Swinton's reward is a home game against Wigan after beating Huddersfield in the last round, and Salford against Hull KR, that reprise of the £1 million game from last year, and they're coming up in the middle of May. So those are the Challenge Cup games. Now, everyone's been waiting for this, haven't they? England have named their 20-man squad to take on Samoa on May the 6th, I think it is, Saturday, May the 6th, at Campbelltown in West Sydney. And 1 or 2, shall we say, interesting selections. Let me just throw a name at you, Gary Schofield. Chris McQueen.
Yeah, why has he been selected? Hyenton, why has he been selected? Hyenton, what's it, 2011, led to believe? He was absolute rubbish for England back in 2011. Has he improved? No, he hasn't. McQueen, why has he been selected? Is he good enough to put an international shirt on? No, he isn't. And I think everybody knows my affection, most certainly, where I don't want any Australians, I don't want any overseas players playing for England. People keep saying to me and throwing me back, you've mentioned it yourself, Dave, at times, well, everybody else does it.
Yeah.
The union, the cricket, whatever, the football, we don't need to copy anybody. No, I don't want any overseas players putting an England shirt on whatsoever. And when I look at it, and I say the players who are being left out here, okay, we're playing Samoa, so for mine it's just maybe a trial test. So why don't we just put players in the opportunity where there's some big egos in this England side, like for instance a Tom Johnson on the wing from there, get used to that environment. And I find it absolutely disrespectful. I find it disgraceful to the respect of our competition and our places and our players who want to play for England. Absolutely disgusting. And it's quite simple here. It is quite simple. When you've got a coaching staff of Kevin Sinfield, okay, he's not the coaching staff, but he's the director of rugby. We've got Kevin Sinfield, we've got Jamie Peacock, we've got Dennis Betts, we've got Paul Sculthorpe and Paul Anderson. Surely they've got to be in the team selection and surely say to Wayne Bennett, hey, well, listen, we don't want any Australians in this dressing room. We reckon as though we've got enough quality in Super League and we want it all English. Because one thing for sure here, and I know there's been a comment from James Graham saying, yeah, well, we very much welcome him to the England dressing room. Just because James Graham is a shoo-in, if he was a young up-and-coming front rower, 22, 23, and Australia was taking his place, he wouldn't be saying the same thing. I find it disgraceful, I find it disrespectful, and I don't want any Aussies putting England shirts on whatsoever.
Well, let's hope Gary Schofield tells us what he really thinks before the end of the programme, instead of sitting on the fence like that. Well, I'll bring Martin in a minute, but Lee, as a former international as well, if you were lining up alongside somebody like Chris McQueen, who said, my dad's English, as kids, we grew up and he told us all about living in London and he was very proud and he said, I've pulled on a Queensland shirt, but pulling on an England shirt will really make my dad proud. It's part of my heritage. I really want to play for England. How would you feel if you were lining up with someone like that?
It's difficult. I really don't think it's difficult. And I was very much, I looked back when we had Rangi Chase playing for us, and I was quite supportive of that, because at the end of the day we didn't have a lot of half-backs. I just don't think it worked out. I just really don't think it worked, and I think that I tend to agree with Gary in a lot of respects regarding the heritage and what we need to do. Ultimately, do we really need McQueen in there? Do we need Hyenton in there? I just don't think we do. We've got enough we've got some good players over here, and it's a great opportunity for Wayne Bennett to have a look at some of those players without bringing in Australian players that are probably at the back end of their career. Certainly Ironton's at the
was
back end of his,
35,
yeah.
isn't he? He's
So
35.
he's, you know, I can't see what the benefit for that is, apart from finance.
Yeah, it's cheap. He's over there. He doesn't have to be flown in. So he's, as a 20th man, he's cheap to get to the camp. Martin.
I mean, Gary just said, you know, there's one word here, isn't there? Why? Why? Gary began by asking that question and then gave his views. But, you know, what strikes me is that it was the RFL and Wayne Bennett and everybody involved with England should have known that when they made this announcement, that would be the question that everybody would ask.
Yeah.
You know, so you might have thought they would have given some justification for it, wouldn't you? You know, if because we're all puzzled, none of us really know. I mean, it's not as though it's Jonathan Thurston, is it? Or, you know, somebody of that calibre. You know, Chris McQueen, frankly, and Chris Ironton, they're not bad players. They're good NRL players, but they're not the best NRL players. So it's not as though, you know, we've selected players who you say, my God, I didn't know he'd got English ancestry. How terrific that he has. You know, I mean, that's incredible. And the thing about Rangi Chase, I mean, Lee mentioned Rangi. There is one important difference. I mean, probably most of us thought Rangi shouldn't have been playing for England either, but there is an important difference that Rangi was living in England at the time and had, you know, been here for 3 years and qualified on that basis. So in a sense, at least he'd committed himself to England, and he has done since then as well. You know, he's been.
That's Wayne Bennett ringing just to explain his decision.
Well,
as to why he's chosen. But just all right. Let's just take away the nationality out of it. I know it's international.
Dave. Listen. You can't, because let me give you a great example here, right? Let me give you a great example. You've got the British lads in before, they're going out to the Aussies and saying, come on, let's rip into these Aussies, and then you've got two Aussies saying, come on you Poms, come on you Poms, let's rip into these Aussies, come on you Pom. What, in the Aussie accent? Yeah. Do me a favour, Dave. I'm not having it, but you know what I mean? Come on you Poms, let's rip into these Aussies. What an absolute disgrace. Yeah. And I say, will they be joining in? Will they be joining with the English lads when they are saying, let's rip into these Aussies? Will they be singing the national anthem? Will Wayne Bennett be singing the national anthem? They won't.
God save McQueen.
No, they won't. Don't get me wound up, Dave. It's absolutely, it's disgraceful and disrespectful, and I don't want it. It's as simple as that, and it should not happen.
The other key fact is, Dave, just to sort of emphasise what Gary says, we know that if the boot was on the other foot, the Aussies would never select, you know, an English player who had Australian.
But they've selected. I mean, they've selected Semi Radradra, for example.
Well, true.
They've selected Brad Thorne, who went on to play for New Zealand.
Yeah.
There's Tony Curry, who played for Australia
Let
and
them
New
pick.
Zealand.
Let them pick who they want. Let them pick who they want.
They pick players.
But again, they're players playing in their competition, you know, living in Australia, you know, who were born elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think.
But they've got the best competition as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, the NRL is the best test of a player.
They will pick the best players who qualify for Australia, but they wouldn't pick players
the
out.
best. The reason they've got the best competition at the moment is because they've got far more players playing the competition throughout the country. So, you know, and that's just from junior level all the way up. So there's a massive difference in the game structure over there to over here, and we struggle to get enough players playing the game as it is. You know, the game in this country at the moment is going down on a downward spiral. Our participation levels are dropping, and that's why the funding's getting dropped through Sport England. So I think that there's a massive difference between the game over there in Australia and it is over here, and that's their biggest advantage because they have got more players to pick from.
That's been for years, and we all know what happened when the 82 Kangaroos came in, when they brought the tackle bags, the tackle shoes, the cones. You know, they changed the game totally. But also another factor here, we have picked Ironton and McQueen. The Aussies and Kiwis will be like that. Oh, lovely. What sort of quality are they? Absolute rubbish. They're not good enough to put an England shirt on, and it's as simple as that. It's Wayne's way or no way. And you know what as well? And Nigel Wood, you know, really from a point of view with Nigel, he panicked a lot when Wayne Bennett says, I want to be coach of the World Cup. I wonder who will take me on. Oh, Nigel went, Wayne Bennett, we've got to have Wayne Bennett, he's available, he might win us the World Cup. I tell you what, we won't win the World Cup by picking absolute Australians who realistically aren't good enough to put a test shirt on. And the Aussies and the Kiwis have been laughing at us by the quality of them two fellas. No, thank you.
He is a super coach. I mean, in defence of Wayne Bennett, he is a super coach. I mean, even the Aussies recognise that he's a good
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it has been, but you know, you can't be sure that he still is, unfortunately. But
He wasn't a super coach in Four Nations, was he?
You know, he's well into his 60s.
We
isn't he
beat
now?
Scotland.
He's well into his 60s, his way, and he
Only for
can't,
40
obviously
minutes.
can't have the same energy he had when he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
So you know, with the best will in the world.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, when you think that somebody like Liam Farrell isn't in the England squad, who I think's had a really great season for Wigan
He's doing okay
so
after injury.
far, and you know, McQueen and Heinton have been picked instead of him. I just find that.
Well,
really
I don't think Heinton will get anywhere near a World Cup squad. For
Well,
what it's
in
worth.
that
I don't
case,
think
why
he'll
is
get
he
anywhere
there?
near-
Why is he in the
there
first
then?
place then, Dave?
Well, who's not there? Ferris is not there. Who else is not there? You know, the back rowers that we could have in that team who are not there at the moment are not available for various reasons.
Well, some are injured,
Farrell's
aren't
coming
they, so-
back. Ferris is out. Who else is out? There's someone
Well,
else.
Curry's injured.
Curry's injured, who probably will play in the centres, I would have thought, for the World Cup. I think there's a lot of back rowers who are not available at the moment.
Well, I'll tell you what, Adam Milner was playing in the back row for Cass. He's doing a great job for him. Why not take him and get him around the Eagles?
Well, that's the other thing as well, is that Cass have got 3 players in that squad, and you just wonder whether a Michael Shenton or one of the 2 wingers might have got in had they not already got 3 players in, because Wayne Bennett had said, I'm only going to take 3 from any one squad.
But also as well, another factor here from Wayne Bennett, when we look at the Four Nations, you look at the Four Nations, the style of rugby he played, he didn't have a clue who his halfbacks were, didn't get the best out of Luke Gale. George Williams didn't have a clue when he was playing 7 or 6.
Well, he changed the halfbacks for every
He
game.
did change the halfbacks for every game. So what is his philosophy going to be?
Yeah, well, that's what I was just going to say there is, that, you know, what is the Samoan test there for? What is he looking to get out of it? Because ultimately, if it's a proper test match, as Martin said off the air, then sure, if it's a test match, then you pick your best team.
Yeah.
So, and if you pick your best team, then you know that's going to influence. There's going to be 4 or 5 players out of one side, and then maybe 1 or 2 out of the other. That has an impact on our Super League competition. You know, I think that the whole scenario is nobody knows why we're playing that, apart from, you know, we've got some players that he wants to have a look at, and I think that if that's the case, that's fair enough. But why pick people like Chris McQueen and Heinton in there? Because, as you said earlier on, you know, I can't see them figuring in the World Cup squad. So why are they in the squad in the first place? I just can't understand what the Samoan test's all about.
I suspect McQueen has been looked at as possible cover in the centres, because Watkins and Percival, you know, great seasons at the moment, but didn't have great Four Nations, did they? To be fair.
No.
So maybe he's looking at McQueen as a possible cover for the 3
Well, maybe so,
quarters.
but at the same time, they didn't have particularly good seasons neither.
No.
So when you look at that, so everything rolls on. You know, it's very rare that you see somebody that doesn't play particularly well during the off season and all of a sudden has an outstanding season for his country in the Four Nations. I think that one follows the other. So, you know, for me again, I would ask the question. One is why are we having the Test match at this time of the year, when it has a massive impact on Super League and the teams that are playing within that competition, and there could be some strange results going off
Yeah.
over that weekend when they're playing, which could have an impact on people that are actually in the bottom 4 and not trying to get in the bottom 4.
Huddersfield play Castleford when Castleford will be lacking.
That's a squad as well that hangs by a thread at the moment, doesn't it? I mean, we've already seen Widdop doing his knee, might miss. Don't want to rule him out just yet, but might miss. If Widdop's out, then your 1 to 7 pick themselves, because there's literally no one else unless you put McQueen in there. Your number 9 picks himself because there's no one else. So it's a real hostage to fortune. There's 5 players, 3 from Cass and 2 from Wigan, presumably, will play on the Saturday night before getting on a plane on the Sunday morning to play a Test match the following Saturday. If you pick up 2 or 3 injuries there, and those are players you'd all expect to play.
Well, the question to be asked is, if they do get injured and say they can't play, who's he going to pick? Who's he going to bring in?
Well,
or has he got some standby players? Surely he's got some standby players if this what happens from there. But I just hope it's not 5 Australians.
Blake Austin could be in there.
I just hope it's not Australians.
Well, I mean, there's Joe Greenwood over there who's not in the squad. There's also Joe Wardle who's playing for Newcastle Knights.
Sargenson's over there as well.
Yeah, Sargenson's there.
So what we're saying here then? Are we saying it's a cost cost-cutting event then, is that what we're saying?
Well,
To save money,
know.
rather than take the British lads who want to play for England in the Super League, it's a cost-cutting thing. We'll just bring anybody from the NRL. Is that what we're saying?
No, but if you're going to have to replace people at short notice, then you know.
This is what I'm saying, Martin.
But they're English players.
This is what I'm saying here. Surely there's players on standby.
Yeah, well,
to fly out
they're
on Sunday
English
morning.
players,
If
aren't they?
Winnipegs out, they're going to have 19 players who land. If everyone else is fit, they're going to have 19 players who land. They're going to have the bare minimum there, aren't they? In case someone picks up an injury during training.
And that's a position that we're very light on, to be fair. You know, we've been struggling to find a decent pair of halfbacks for God knows how long.
Well, since me and Gregory. There you go.
Decent a pat on the back, mate. Well done, yeah.
Well, what other halfbacks have we had since? We've used loose forwards.
I'm just saying, I'm
only being honest here. We've had loose forward. I think sometimes you might have got to start stand off being a front row, but since me and Greg, we haven't had any. I'll go back to it if you want me to. Clark, Farrell, Sculthorpe, Sinfield, not halfbacks, all loose forwards. There you go. There you go.
We've got 2 cold showers and an ice bath and a boxing ring waiting for these lots to sort it all out. In the interval, we'll be back, black eyes and all, for the third part in just a moment.
If you think rugby league's just a game for youngsters, think again. Masters Rugby League is a new form of the game, specially created for the over 35s. From full contact to non-contact, there's a pair of shorts for everyone. Get fit, make friends, have fun. To find your nearest Masters Rugby League club, just search Masters Rugby League online or drop us an email.
So welcome back to the final part of Back Chat. Everything's calmed down here now. Everyone's a little more relaxed, a little chilled. So let's stir it up again. We were talking about the international games. There's a triple header on the Saturday at Campbelltown, which England, Samoa, I think is the third of those games. And Australia play New Zealand on the Friday. Chatting to our good mate Steve Mascord this last week. And very few people in Sydney seem to care that International Rugby League is taking place. I mean, how worrying is that in a year when we've got a World Cup, that this rep weekend, I think it's the last weekend of City against country as well, isn't it? Last time that fixture is ever played. Rep football, as the Aussies would call it, just doesn't seem to figure at all.
No, and it's partly because the NRL competition is so compelling this year. I think that everybody's club focused. But what I suspect is that when this weekend's round of NRL matches is played, and people suddenly realise that the following weekend is a rep weekend, the interest will grow quite strongly. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a great crowd at Canberra for the Anzac game.
Yeah.
And
but Sydney, talking about Sydney, there's only two games in the World Cup in Sydney.
Yeah.
You know, Sydney is the heartbeat of rugby league.
Well,
and it doesn't seem to care.
It
doesn't seem to care about international rugby league.
Well, the fact is that the Australian Rugby League isn't very good at promoting what it's got. I mean, you know, I was talking to somebody in the RFL not long ago about the way that the Australians have organised the World Cup, and there's quite a lot of dissatisfaction over here.
Yeah.
A, at the amount of money they're spending, with B, very little return.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't quite, you know, it's hard to know how the World Cup will work out. I suspect, though, that there is so much interest in rugby league over there that ultimately they'll be pushing at an open door, and they will get good crowds for the World Cup tournament.
Yeah.
But, you know, these mid-season games are a strange, unknown quantity, really. It's about, you know, we've said earlier that is England versus Samoa really a test match or not? You know, I assume it is, but you know, nobody's absolutely certain about that. There's a strange lack of information about it in a curious way, isn't there? And you know, and then you know, the fact it's part of a triple header as well, sort of slightly lowers its status, I think.
I think what you find out with the Aussies as well, Dave, is that if it's not quality, they're not prepared to watch it. You know, they see the quality week in and week out with the NRL. We all know how big State of Origin is over there, don't we? So if they don't see...
well, hang on, let's go on State of Origin. Then State of Origin has been, the last few series have been pretty not one-sided, but you know, the same team's won over the last few years.
Yeah, but still,
Australia against New Zealand, you've had some proper competitive matches, which New Zealand have won quite a few.
I'm not talking...
But still, the focus is on State of Origin.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. The Australia-New Zealand test to be okay, but I'm on about the triple header at Campbelltown, which is, well, just on the outskirts of Sydney there. If the Aussies, the public from there, if they don't think it's going to be quality, then they won't go watch it there.
Well, the fact is, though, that if you've got Fiji and Samoa and Tonga and PNG playing, they'll get a big crowd there.
In
because
Campbelltown,
those fans of those teams will go and watch them. Whether they'll stay to watch, you know, England play, I'm not quite so sure.
Well, they'll stay to watch Samoa.
Yeah,
there's a big Polynesian, you know.
There is in Western Sydney.
Yeah, so it's quite, you know, I think that's where they've picked that venue. But and again, you know, State of Origin is State of Origin, and I think that's a local rivalry that will go on as a rep thing, you know. Whether England holds any fears for anybody over there or has got any sort of value is, you know, I wouldn't like to say at the moment. I think since the Great Britain tour stopped, I think that the popularity of seeing England play over there, I think, has dwindled quite immensely, and I think that there's probably a bit more of a shout to get Great Britain to go back over there as a...
Well, I think that's in the offing, isn't it? That's in the offing.
So.
But I mean, and at least you know, I'm not looking at Gary Schofield when I say this, but at least, you know, if Steve McNamara had picked Liam Farrell for this test squad, I don't think anyone in Australia would have taken any notice. The fact that Wayne Bennett has picked Chris McQueen for this test squad, suddenly there's an interest. That generates an interest in Australia that might not have been there before.
Yeah, but whether that translates into people going to see the game...
I'm not looking at Gary.
Whether that translates into people going to see the game is probably debatable.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think it will. But you know, but I think we need to learn more. You know, the whole game needs to learn how to promote its international.
Yeah. Well, that's a good. You bring us on to a good point here. Grotbags on Twitter has tweeted us saying, which is the priority? A flourishing international competition that sees progression from Tier 2 nations to Tier 1. I mean, Samoa, Fiji, they could be big hitters in this World Cup, couldn't they? Or flourishing domestic competitions, which is the priority?
Well, I think from our point of view, we need to have a flourishing domestic competition, because without that, we'll never get to attain international status as we want. I think that the big impact with the emerging nations, so people like Samoa and Tonga and Fiji that are coming through Papua New Guinea, there's an enormous amount of Polynesian people gravitating to Australia, which is having a massive impact on their junior game. Yeah. So over there, and I think that these people saying now we need to find out, you know, what's going off there, because you've got kids that are absolutely, you know, massive at 10, 11, 12 years old that are just trampling all over, Polynesian kids that are trampling all over, and that's having a massive effect on the amount of naturalised Australian children that are playing the game. So, you know, as I said, there's more and more people over there. It's such a vast country with such little population per square mile or whatever it is. That, you know, that it could continue and continue and continue, and all of a sudden we might end up seeing the likes of Samoa and Fiji and Tonga actually overtaking England.
Yeah. The Four Nations 2 years ago, Samoa could very easily have been in the final.
Well, what's particularly interesting about Australia is that there are lots of immigrants from all over the world ending up in Australia, and you know they've even been putting out a team recently called Africa United of African immigrants to Australia, which looks, you know, they've got quite a few young African kids coming through now into the lower reach of the NRL, looking at, you know, into their under 20s and so on, and they look as though they could, you know, put together a great side ultimately.
Well, my answer for that is quite simple. We need an international side we need an international side that realistically is going to hopefully contest Four Nations finals, hopefully try and get closer to the Australians and certainly the Kiwis, because we go back here now, you know, we just talked about the halfbacks, and I say we've not had any proper halfbacks as myself and Gregory. The reason why, because our domestic game has all been that we need to get to the finals, we need to get to grand final, and what have we done? we brought rubbish over from Australia
Yeah.
and New Zealand, lost our way from a point of view where our specialist positions have been lost. So the sooner we realise that, well, we're not going to realise it because the domestic game, you know, the club chairmen and chief executives, they want success at club level rather than look after the international
But
game.
one thing, for
Sean
example,
Long.
one thing we could do, for example, we've now got
2006.
every club has the, you know, can have 2 marquee players.
Yeah. But what difference does that make? What realistic? What
the
difference?
fact is, surely we should be saying that those 2 marquee players have got to be British players. Players who qualify for English players.
What do you class as marquee players?
The thing about it is, again, and so you're going, so I think our salary cap's gone up 75 grand on it over
It's going up
it's
roughly
crawling
a
up.
year over the next 2
right,
years.
so that and the NRL's gone up to $9 million,
Yeah.
so which is about
But Leeds,
four and a half. So what I'm saying is that finance. So if they're trying, if the marquee player is to retain our best players and stop them from going over to Australia, then that's fair enough. But I'm not too sure whether it is or it isn't. So for me, I would suggest that any young up-and-coming player really should be going over to Australia and playing in the NRL because he will get better over there, because our competition at this particular time, I don't think is good enough to enhance.
Well, doesn't that
players'
then
ability.
worsen our competition if all our best kids are going
well,
over
exactly. So it's you're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, aren't you? So it's very difficult to say, well, you know, what should we be doing? We need to our game in this country should be put first and foremost. Forget international rugby. They should be making sure that our game generates enough players that we can have a strong competition all the way through the community game, through the professional game, and then into the international arena. And without that, we're just going to be clutching at straws all the time.
But the fact is that we actually in this country focus on quantity and not quality in terms of, for example, the number of games we play in a season. You know, we're cramming so many games at club level into the season that it makes it ludicrous, really, because we then have these situations where, you know, England are going over to play Samoa with, you know, barely a week's notice in Campbelltown and so on. And, you know, there's just too much focus on the number of games and not enough on reducing the number of games, as they do in the NFL, for example, where they play 16 or 17 games in the regular season. You know, but they're all tremendous quality, and we need to do that. And I know the clubs say, well, we need all this so many games because we need the finance. But if you reduce the season, I think the crowds would go up proproportionately.
Yeah, probably. I think you're probably right there, Martin. And I was just about to say, it's all about finance. It's all about you know, earning more money, because as a competition or as a sport, we don't generate enough income to have sustainability in what we're doing. You know, our money's being cut from Sport England. We rely on Sport England funding too much, and I think that you only have to look at the RFU. You know, they get Sport England funding, but they generate that much income that, you know, they can go out and define their own destiny.
But that's through the international calendar. You know, they can sell Twickenham out 3 or 4 times on the trot. You know, so you mentioned there, you know, the club domestic game and forget about the international game. You can't, because that's how your game attracts the huge sponsors and gets the worldwide recognition
and makes kids want to play the game.
Absolutely, you know, and aspire to play for England. By the way, when you mentioned Sean Long from there, didn't do very well the week after against New Zealand, didn't he?
No, but he didn't like that guy.
You may be right. Well, that's what I'm saying, Gary. We're caught between the devil and which do you prioritise, and you can't have a strong international team
unless you've got quality
if you haven't got quality at club level. So there's got to be. So we need to generate some income from somewhere.
The problem is quite simple. With the chief executive, the chairmen, they think more about the club game, the club competition, than what they do about the international calendar. That's a big issue there.
So when England Rugby Union pick Ben Teo, for example, and they might pick Dennis Solomona, who knows, and England go out and win games because they've got this depth. They've got this depth, so they go out and win games.
Even the British Lions have picked that team.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares that Ben Teo played for Samoa at Rugby League. Nobody cares that Dennis Solomona played for, was it Samoa as well at Rugby League?
Well, I bet you Jamie Roberts. I bet you Jamie Roberts cares because that team's been picked for the British Lions.
Well, tough for him. The fact is that they go together to make a successful sporting team, and off the back of that, the sport feeds financially. So should we not be swallowing this kind of principle of they've got to be English-born if we've not got the depth to make English rugby league successful?
Not for me whatsoever. I don't want any foreigners, Australians, New Zealanders, whoever else. I just want a team that is full of British talent and hopefully go out there and get what they want to get. I don't want it.
But the strength, just to answer that as well, is that even if you went down that route, we're still not getting the quality. So we're not getting the quality that are coming over here. So Chris Harrington and Chris McQueen, going back to them, you know, the quality of those players, like you said, if it had been somebody else, then that had already played international rugby for Australia, then fair enough.
Yeah. So you'd have had the Morris twins if the Morris twins had been selected.
No, because the Morris twins, to be fair, the Morris twins played for Australia, but there was, if I'm not led to believe, they were born over here. Steve Morris come over here.
Both born in Leeds.
Yeah. So you know, that's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Right.
So, but what I'm saying is that you've got, if you're going to put quality players, if you're going to do something like that, at least try and select quality players. Not the problem we've got over here is that we've selected half-baked players all the time.
Listen, at the end of the day, the quality Australians won't want to play for England. They want to play for Australia.
Exactly.
The quality New Zealanders
that's the point
want to play for New Zealand. So
we're not even going down the same route. We're trying to get people that can't get picked for Australia. So we'll not play for Australia. So we'll have them playing for England then. Well, that's, you know, you defeat the object.
But coming back to what the point Dave made about Ben Teo and Dennis Solomona being picked for England at Rugby Union, the difference again, it comes back to Rangi Chase. They've committed themselves to playing rugby in this country.
Well, Ben Teo was playing in Ireland. He'd already just signed for England, hadn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he's come over to this part of the world, hasn't he, to play to play his rugby. You know, and you can, because they've made that commitment, it doesn't seem, you know, there's not the same rejection of the idea that, you know, you ought to be able to play for England. I think what's really weird about the McQueen and Harrington situation is that they've, you know, made no commitment to playing over here at all. They've never played over here. They're just playing in the NRL, and, you know, they've never shown any. Well, I mean, Harrington did play for England back in 2011, as you say, but you know, he could have then come over here and played over here, couldn't he, potentially?
Yeah.
But didn't. And McQueen has never, as far as we know, shown any intention of playing over here. So it just seems strange to me.
I'll give you a prime example here. Two quality halfbacks, Salford and Hull, couldn't even make reserve grade in Australia. Michael Dobson and Albert Kelly, they're taking the quality positions. What we are lacking in halfbacks, I rest my case.
Good. And just at the right moment as well, because that's right at the end of the programme. Really enjoyed it today, fellas. Really good stuff.
Thank
good
you.
chat. Let's just remind ourselves of what's coming up on this channel over the next few days, of course. Tomorrow, a couple of games. Friday and tomorrow morning, the Rabbitohs against the Sea Eagles at Allianz Stadium. That's 9 o'clock kickoff. That's live. And that's followed at 10:50 by the Cowboys against the Eels. 3 games on Saturday. Titans against the Knights. That's a 6 a.m. start, so set your alarm and then go back to sleep. No, get up and watch it. Bulldogs against the Raiders is at 8:30, and the Tigers against the Sharks is at 10:30. And then a couple of games on the Sunday from Mount Smart Stadium at 5 o'clock kickoff. Warriors against the Roosters. And after that, at 7 o'clock, it's the Dragons against the Storm. That is what's known as a surfeit of Australian Rugby League on this channel over the next 3 days. We've also got lots of domestic stuff coming up as well. On the 7th of May, Sunday the 7th of May, we get to see Toronto in Toronto for the very first time. Oxford, the side who are going out there. That's going to be a must-watch. And it's on at midnight on the 7th of May. Toronto Wolfpack against Oxford. So, well, looking forward to that. Are they going to fill the Lamport Stadium? We shall see. You can check all this and more at Premier Sports, don't forget the final S.tv. So that's premiersports.tv. That's as far as we go today. Thanks to our guests, to Gary Schofield, to Lee Crooks, and to Martin Sadler. And we'll see you next time.